Welcome back to the fourth segment of my last Remnant 100% completion hard mode run. We're going to show here the results of the Godwood grind so far. So we began at BR5. We're pausing here at BR7 to do some quests and guild tasks. First off, we have Iridus. He starts as a monk, and I was able to keep him as a legendary monk and not shift to bard by really focusing on developing his spear levels. Second, we have Semri, who naturally will shift to swashbuckler, so not a whole lot to comment on there. You'll see Southerby, actually through repeated herbs development, has become a scout. We'll keep him there. I really can't go anywhere from there, but we'll keep him in the party to satisfy the scout guild requirement. Here we have Loki, who I shifted to ranger as sort of a break from the norm. What you do there is you develop his mystic arts to at least level 2, and then really go after his combat arts with the itemistic balance no longer in place. He cannot become a bludgeoner, and so very likely will become a ranger, just that happened here. Balson, without using his herbs and just focusing on combat arts, he naturally became a lancer, although I'll probably shift him to guardian later on. Faye just has something different. I focused on her lotions development. That's very commonly ignored. You never see a hunter Faye, and just again for breaking tradition, I decided to do something different with her. She doesn't meet the requirements for hunter yet. She needs 47 strength, but she does not meet the requirements for scout, which has a lower strength requirement, and so she'll remain in monk until her strength rises. Rebecca, just as a change of pace, she's a naturally mystic unit, but I developed her combat arts and then left her on the bench until her strength passively rose to greater than her intellect, and you see that she shifted into lancer, which is certainly very uncommon to see naturally growing mystic units function in a combat class. With Texan is the soldier that begins with decent leveled hexes. Just to match up with his hex levels, I developed his combat arts to make him a druid. The class actually fits him, considering he uses a two-handed weapon and has hexes, so I may keep him in the party. The final party is not completely decided yet. Here with David, I had mostly focused on using him as a reviver. So as you can see, his herbs are very well developed, but he had a decent amount of combat arts usage, and I saw that he met the wield style requirement for Guardian, so I left him on the bench until his strength rose to 47, deployed him, and he skipped Scout and went to Guardian instead. Blocked, again straightforward, much like Balson, just through combat arts usage and ignoring his herbs, he became an axeman. With Pagus, the original plan was that he would become a ranger, which is one of the lowest combat class options available to him, but I used his remedies just a little bit too much in the very early game, and so he doesn't meet the Mystic Arts level 2 requirement, or 2 levels greater than items. They're actually 3 levels difference, and so he can't become a ranger. I'll probably make him a cavalier and potentially a guardian. McGrady there, same deal as Rebecca. He is also in the Lancer class. Hematea here, I mentioned that you really only want to use his Mystic Arts, not use regular attacks or combat arts, because we want to shift into Mystic Focus, and just briefly showing that he has not even used regular attacks to unlock double strike, so he's definitely going to go to Mystic Focus. Quickly bounced through Harala. I told you when we hired him that we were just going to let him naturally gain stats and then deploy him to shift him to Rune Maiden, which will satisfy that guild task requirement to have a Rune Maiden in your party. Let's see here, Nora is a bit of a project character, and this time around I'm shooting for Specialist, which means she has to be benched until she learns hexes. She starts with maces in level 4, which means that in order to stay in a level 3 Mystic class, we have to get her grand total of her Mystic levels up to level 8 without changing into a different class. And so for now she's Freelancer. I have 4 levels in Invocations. When she learns hexes, I will have to gain up to level 4 without her gaining any stats or even being actually alive at the end of a battle. I'll explain more about that when that time comes, but I think it's going to be possible to make her a Specialist. Oaks here hasn't used any regular attacks at all since I hired him. He's strictly been on healing and reviving duty, which means that his physical and mystic arts or usage, or actions usage, is both at 0, so he is going to remain in balance focus until I let him actually take some action. I'm going to make him the ultimate scout, and I will show more about that when the time comes, in a much later segment. Here with Rush, here's the big reveal. He's an assassin. but I'm going to do something a little different with him as an assassin. Pretty simple to get him there. Just use his herbs, or any item art for that matter. But use his herbs until they are equal to his weapon usage, weapon levels usage, and then he will eventually shift to scout. Once he's a scout, you just chase after your weapon levels through use of combat arts, specifically one-handed and sword, and he will become an assassin. And so that's where we are now. That's pretty much the update on where my party is in progress, although it's not finalized by any means. We're going to begin this video by doing quite a few quests. We're going to knock a handful of quests out here, and then we're going to knock out a bunch of guild tasks. There is a lot going on in this one, and we will end basically when we reach the Melphina part of the story. It's available on the map, but there's a bunch of a backlog of quests to take care of, and so expect us to end the video with all things Melphina. For now, we're going to go back to Baltarosa. You see, we spoke to Paris, and we are going to finally come back and take care of his quest. We initiated his quest early on so that we could get a morsel from Mr. Diggs, but now the party is certainly very well developed, shouldn't have too much problem with any of these quests, so we're just going to quickly zip through this dungeon, take care of the boss, and check this off of our to-do list.
Come on, let's kick some ass! Yes. How you like that? Piece of cake! Sweet!
Alright, so we've returned to the Great Sand Sea, and you can see here that we're taking care of the quest, The Silent Soul. This is everybody's least favorite quest, also known as C4BEA1. That is the order of the pillars that you have to investigate before you can complete the quest. This segment is basically me running around the Great Sand Sea, interacting with those pillars, so feel free to skip ahead. This is one of those quests that requires zero fighting, and it's certainly not that interesting to watch, but we'll get this out of the way and move on to Celipole to knock out Rago's quest and Violet's quest. Okay, so we're here in Salapalais, and now we're going to tackle Rago's quest. We just completed the Silent Soul in Valterosa, and now we're going to do a single soul here in Salapalais. It's a straightforward quest. Basically, you're going to run through darkened forests. You'll get to see me get lost because I haven't had to really go treasure hunting in this area for quite some time. It's typically just run to the NPC at the end to initiate the fight with the boss. But I was running around trying to find treasure chests, and again, it's been a long time, and so you'll see my embarrassment here. But at the end, the boss fight is really not that challenging, especially for our party at this point. There are some leapfrogs, there's some tree ants, and there's some vulture type enemies. The tree ants are going to stand by, much like they do in some earlier boss fights, waiting for you to interact. The vulture type enemies, you get a chance to explain their AI. Anytime you encounter a vulture type enemy, they are going to chase after whichever union contains the weakest character, and it'll be the character with the lowest HP. And they will actually gang up on that single character. And so you'll notice if you fight large groups of them, there's a good chance that you're going to have a single character get KO'd just through all of the repetitive damage to them. And so keep that in mind. You can potentially intercept an enemy vulture union to prevent them from taking out a weaker member of your party. After they've taken out that member of the party, though, they'll stay deadlocked with whichever union they're currently in, but if they get an opportunity to switch, they will chase after the next weakest character. And so it's kind of an interesting trait that they are gang up on whatever your weakest party member is in hopes of taking them out. And so you'll see the boss fight here. Again, really straightforward. Not much to say other than what I've already been kind of going on about. We'll wrap this quest up, and I'm actually gonna hire Rago. I plan to include him in my party, but you should hire him regardless, because having him in your party does unlock a quest in the early second half of the game, provided you've met a couple other requirements. And since we're 100% completing this, we do have to make sure to do Rago's second quest. And so I would pick him up now, even though he's got kind of a hefty price tag on him. Whether you use him or not, again, you need him for 100% completion.
right now? Piece of cake! Sweet!
Alright, so we are in Gazlan Caves to tackle When the Rose Blooms, which is the second of Violet's quests. And just a heads up, this is a quest that's available fairly early in the game and can be pretty challenging for an underdeveloped party. So if it turns out you're not able to get through it in the earliest part of the game, it's not one that you have to take care of immediately. I would recommend at least waiting until the 12-party upgrade to come back and tackle it. Especially on hard mode, the Wyverns that are part of the boss fight will use Dust Devil, and it can very quickly wipe out your entire team. So once again, it's worth postponing if you're in the very early stages and haven't developed your team at all. There's a point here in this dungeon, on this second area, where we're going to stop. I'm going to save it, and off camera I'm going to do some harvesting. What we want to do is get a final component here. Well, one of the final components. We have to get the base weapon itself, but we have to get one of the last components for the assassin's dagger. You can harvest fly husks from a digs point here up ahead, and you need 4 of them. You need 4 of them to upgrade to the assassin's dagger. It is a rare item, and so I would recommend saving and save scumming this location. I'll point it out once we get to it. So the harvest point is up ahead, and it is on the right hand side as you're facing the teleporter. There's 2 harvest points back here, so you want to grab the one on the right if you're going to farm it for those fly husks. I was fortunate there that we had the rare liquid lolly actually hanging out. If there is no rare spawn, this room is filled with feral fangs, and it can be very difficult to dodge them and get at the harvest point here. But as you can see, I'm going to save it. Again, off camera, I'm going to save and reload until I get the 4 fly husks that we need for the Assassin's Dagger Guild task. So Gabriel's waiting up ahead, and when you interact with him, you'll be taken immediately to Selipole for the boss fight. And so it is recommended that you save your game before doing so. Once again, this is a pretty challenging fight if your party is underprepared, and so it would be unfortunate if you came all this way and then lost in your first encounter. So again, save your game. Once you do complete this quest, though, you finally get access to the Sword of the Three Realms Guild. It'll be available in Selipole, and you'll see shortly after this quest is done, we're going to hop on over there and cash in all of our pending Sword of the Three Realms completed guild tasks.
Come on, let's kick some A. Check this out. Oh, what are you doing?
You man enough for this?
Watch this.
Wait, somebody took me out?
Hope you're ready to die! Kick in their faces from the start!
I know I'm
This is
good.
exactly what I needed. Perhaps next time.
So with the completion of Violet's quest, we have access to the Sword of the Three Realms here in Selipole. I'm going to head there now and cash in our completed guild tasks. On the way, I'm going to interact with Drago once to begin the counter towards achieving his parameter bonus. I explained that with Balsan in the very early game, but with Drago and many others, you interact with him once and the counter begins. It increases every time you return to the world map and then re-enter his area. You don't necessarily have to interact with him each time you visit, but you do need to visit the area where he's found. It's 5 times between red talk bubbles with Drago before you'll actually get the talk bubble. Interact with him then, and then the counter starts all over again. Eventually you hit a roadblock until his quest becomes available in the second half of the game, and that's after completion of the Tablet of Marshall side quest as well. For now, you'll see we're cashing in those guild tasks. The only character available for hire from this guild at this time is Violet. She is a unique character, but she has no further quests, and she's not a character that I'm looking to add in my final party. I will just make a quick comment about her, that she's a staff wielder and she starts with remedies. You might get the impression that she's a mystic character, but she is not. She is natural strength growth, not intellect growth. She's very much a damage dealer, physical attacker, and so I would highly recommend using her in that capacity. Her slow intelligence growth makes her a very poor healer. In fact, I would not even pursue her remedies at all and just let her slip into the Rune Maiden class for the additional damage to all of her combat arts. And we're going to take a side trip here to the heroic ramparts. We have some component gathering to complete. Now that we have Megalius and Iridis in the party, I said we were going to return here later, take on the Jana and do a little bit of harvesting. For Megalius, we need to gather the components to upgrade to the Elite Scepter. For that guild task in the Sword of the Three Realms, the first component is here from this harvest point. I need Superior Cotton. I need 3 pieces. You see here that we got 6, so he has everything he needs. Now I'm going to start hunting the Jana Magus. The guild task itself requires taking down 6 of them. Once again, Jana Magus are mixed in with the Archmagus, and so your grand total is actually going to be greater than 6 if you're relying on your chain for a total number defeated. We're going to have to fight multiple groups of these anyway to get some other components. We're looking to get 4 Beastman Bones, which is a drop. 4 of those are required by Megalius for the Elite Scepter upgrade. We also need 3 pieces of Beastman Rawhide. Those are also a drop. Those 3 pieces are their own guild task. And then finally we need 3 pieces of Thick Beast Hide. You have to capture and split Jana Magus in order to get those, and those 3 pieces are needed by Iridis, again for his upgrade, which will eventually lead us to the Lance of Longinus. And so you'll see here, I'm just going to fight these Jana until we gather all of our components, and then we're going to head on our way to the next quest.
Sweet!
So just a quick comment here with the first fight completed. You see there that Megalius is asking for Beast Bones, and I specifically said that they were called Beastman Bones. If you're referring to the wiki, it's still listed as Beastman Bones, but it's been renamed here in the remastered version because there are 2 items with the same name. There's a Beastman Bone, and now there's it's been differentiated by renaming one to Beast Bone. And so depending on the version you're playing, you're looking for the component that can be found by fighting these Magus and getting it as a drop. But I will refer to it as Beastman Bones since I typically play on the PC, but know that they're one and the same for that weapon upgrade requirement.
Kick in their faces from the side. Son of a... I need the other one! The other one!
Alright, now our work here is completed. You see that we've harvested or gathered all of the materials that we need from this visit to the ramparts. We have defeated the 6 Jana Magus that we need for its guild task. Again, we need 4 Beastman Bones for Megalius and the 3 pieces of Superior Cotton. You see we have more than enough here. And then for Iridis, we need 3 pieces of Thick Beast Hide, which we have. Then lastly, we need 3 pieces of Beastman Rawhide. We have plenty more than what we need of that. And so now we can leave the area and we're going to move onto Ghor. So these fights have raised our BR to 9, and we finally have our first request for what we should focus on here with a unique character. So Balson's asking, should we focus on combat arts, mystic arts, or just be balanced? Every character starts in balance focus. Unique characters will remain in balance focus until they ask you what they should focus on, and what that does is it opens up either combat or mystic as an option, but they won't stay there. They're going to evaluate what their combat arts versus mystic arts usage has been between weapon upgrades. So like I've described with generic units, they will shift to whichever one is open and for which they meet the requirements, again checking when they upgrade their weapon. So Balson started in balance. I said that he could focus on combat, so that opens physical focus, but he can shift back to balance. He can shift to mystic if I ever answer his second question with the mystic option, and he can bounce between any of those foci depending upon what actions he's taken between weapon upgrades. And so all it really does, though, it doesn't influence the way that the character grows. All it does is determine what their current weapon upgrade path is going to be and what accessories they will request from you. And so now that I've shifted him to physical focus, and because he does not have any mystic options at this time, if he upgrades his weapon, he is simply going to stay in physical focus. He's going to be interested in belts and earrings, so at this point it's too late to get him any kind of amulets or bracelets unless I find a way to shift him back to balance focus. Furthermore, he is not at all going to ask for any mystic related accessories because that option is not available to him. After that explanation, I'll make a quick comment as to what I did here in Ghor. First off, I ran to grab a couple of splitters for fader requests. That's more party specific. It's not something you need to necessarily do if you're not using someone who will request them. But I did stop at the shop and I picked up the Grand Axe. That's the base weapon needed for the Death Mask, and so with our first visit to Ghor, it's our opportunity to grab it, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. We're going to tackle Zuido's quest here first. One of the first items you can gather here while completing this quest is Vale Iron. You need 2 pieces of that for the Death Mask, and what I'm doing here is just checking to see if I'd gathered it elsewhere. I have, but if you have not, I'll show you here. The first harvest point is straight ahead and to the left, right where you find the first item that Zuido asks you to retrieve. The harvest point is there on the wall, and that's what I'm pointing out here. Again, you need 2 pieces for the Death Mask, but we have a lot more harvesting to do at the very end of this area, and so I would like to limit the amount of harvesting I try to do along the way. It's pretty straightforward here. There's 3 items to be found to complete this quest in each of the 2 areas. A grand total is 6. There is 1 other item to find along the way besides just some treasure chests. You see here we picked up the first item, first treasure right by the harvest point. There's the second treasure. The third one's just up ahead, but there is a remembrance item to be found for the Jorgen Amnesia quest while we're in here. Again, in addition to some treasure chests. At the very end, I'm going to grab the harvest point before I pick up the very last treasure so that I can harvest some Royotian steel, and I'll comment again on that once we get there. We are up to the 4th and 5th treasure for this quest, and this next item is the Boots of Remembrance. So I mentioned that this is an opportunity to get another Jorgen item for the Amnesia quest. This would be where you locate it. You could turn it in at this point. We should have more than enough of the Remembrance items, but if you're waiting for a specific Jorgen, you do have to wait until further in the game when you get the appropriate Remembrance items before you complete the Amnesia quest. At the very end here, the 6th item is sitting on the ground. I'm going to skip it, grab the treasure chest behind it, and then on the left hand side on the wall is a harvest point. This is where I'm looking to get Royotian steel. Ideally, I'll find 19 pieces. It's pretty unlikely that even with some extra successful digs that I'm going to get all 19, but that is the goal. What I would like to get is 10 of them for the quest emotions. That way I don't have to turn in any other items in order to fulfill one of the interactions with an NPC on there. Just doesn't cost me any money in that case. I need 3 other pieces for the Mermaid's Malice upgrade. I need 6 more pieces to craft the Champion's Lance, which is its own guild task. And so those are my 19 pieces. Since I have Iridus and Megalius in the party as well at this point, they each need 1 piece of Royotian steel. They're going to clone what I harvest and keep for rush, and so you're not doing any extra harvesting to satisfy their needs. And so once again, I'm looking for 19 pieces. I don't believe I'm going to get it, and so off of the clock, I'm going to zip back through here and get the balance.
All right! Awesome! All right! Awesome! All right! Awesome! All right! Awesome!
So I'm through harvesting, and I did not get all 19 pieces of Royotian steel that I'd hoped for, so off of the clock I'll come back here and pick up the balance. But we did get everything we needed for both Iridus and Megalius from this trip. Iridus is still missing one of the 3 components. He needs Meteorite, and we will get that from the 2nd quest in the Melphina Knights quest chain. Megalius has everything, and so as soon as I leave the menu, I'm going to head over and grab the final treasure for Zuido. It'll teleport us back to Ghor. We'll wrap up this quest, and then when I take a step back to the overhead map of the city, he will have upgraded to the Elite Scepter, and so that guild task will be completed. We're going to return to town, though, at that point to find Krynia. The next quest in the Witch's quest is available, and so we're going to knock that out. Zuido does have to be off of the map in order for her to show up, though, so either complete this quest if you're looking to do Ghor's Witch immediately, or once the quest disappears after completing the Aqueducts portion, you can come back here, and she'll be standing in the alleyway where I'll point her out here in just a moment. I'm showing here the mini-map for the city. There's no light blue dots on the map, and that is the indication that there's an NPC with a red talk bubble over their head. Once we return to the city, like we're doing right now, I'm going to show the mini-map once more, and it will show you that Krynia is now available. I'm actually physically walking over there, but on the overhead map, once I turn rush facing the other direction, you can see there's the light blue dot that there's someone who can be interacted with and has something important to say. So we'll shell out the gold, wrap up this quest, and then we're going to head over to Athlum to take on our next quest. So I've returned to Athlum so that I can take out the quest that the trade route. It is a quest that doesn't require any fighting, so I may as well do it now because it makes a useful shop available in Athlam's Town Square. But before we go into the pub, I have both Loki and Nora in my party, and much like Rago, you do need these two if you're looking to 100% complete the game. They at least need to be in your party because they both offer quests later on. I'm talking to Loki first, and then I'm also going to speak with Nora, and these initial conversations are to start the tally for the parameter bonus. Just like Rago, they both require that you return to the map, the world map, and then re-enter the area 5 times before they advance to the next red talk bubble. I start the ticker on both of them at the same time so that you don't actually have to interact with them with each return visit. So when I see that Loki's is red, I'll speak with him, and then I'll also speak with Nora in the pub so that they're both in sync. I showed briefly there that Megalius did upgrade to the Elite Scepter. Again, I'm not sure why I didn't do it as soon as I entered Ghor, but that was the point when he upgraded, and so that's taken care of. We'll turn that in a little bit. The trade route, I said, is a quest that does not require any fighting. You just have to follow along this surveyor, and provided you give the correct answers when he asks you for a response, you won't have to do any fighting at all. So we're going to quick zip through this area without any fighting, and then we will unlock a shop in Athlam that I will comment more about once we return. So after completing the trade route, Martha's items becomes available in Athlum's town square, making a return trip here to make a couple of purchases. She gains a few more items as the story progresses, but one of the best things you can pick up from her is the safety earlet, and that is an accessory. It's an earring that for anyone in physical focus, they're going to ask for it, assuming they don't already have a higher rank accessory in that slot. What makes it so great is that it reduces damage received by 10%, and that is it's a common trait for earrings. They're damage reduction item. That's what the physical resist bonus is. But what sets it apart from other earrings is that on top of that, it grants a plus 10% increase to your evasion. And there's only 2 other earrings that are going to improve. Well, 2 other earrings that are worth getting that improve your evasion. And so the safety earlet ranks 3rd on my list. Second is the Stormcloud Bolt, which is one you can craft, and Hina's earring is the first one. Each one grants a greater reduction in physical damage received and greater increases to evasion. I'm stopping here because we're going to end the clip with a mini break. I'm going to return to Numer Mine, and I'm going to pick up the components that we didn't get while I was taking down the Quayan with Emma earlier in order to complete the guild test that unlocked Vega. I mentioned we'd have to come back at some point, and at this point I have to get 4 pieces total of Imfer. That's what I'm missing, and so I'm going to get those off the clock. We need those for the Assassin's Dagger, and after which we're going to head on over to the Vale of the Gods. So we are returning to the Vale of the Gods here in order to find the rare spawn, Ancient Blue. It's a Manicore type enemy. It's a one-time rare, which means that once you've defeated it, it's not going to spawn again. I'm looking to capture and split it in order to find the Manticore head, and we need 2 Manticore heads in order to craft the Ram Skull. You can get them only from 2 options here in the first half of the game, and the first one here is Ancient Blue, the other is from Nephthys, and since we need 2, we're going to be hunting both of them. Ancient Blue actually blocks another rare from spawning. That would be the Bandit that appears in the Vale of the Gods. You can farm that for money if you're interested. It's actually a pretty easy monster to take down repeatedly. You see it at the entrance when it has spawned, and so it's worthwhile pursuing that. I'm going to do 1 recorded Bandit fight to show that there's some nice drops that you can get from that fight. I'm going to save and then, if necessary, reload to make sure that I get the Manicore head here from the Ancient Blue fight. After that, we're going to head over to the Catacombs and get that second Manticore head.
Let's do this! I don't really want to fight, but... Forgive us! We don't want to fight! Oh! Be careful! Oh! Sweet!
So I showed once that we did get the Manicore head, but I'm also remembering that I never showed you that I got those pieces of Imfer. So when off camera I had returned to Numer Mine. I needed a total of 4 of them. We ended up with 5, and so I'm just pointing that out here. I'm going to return to the world map, save it, and then show you the spawning of the Vale of the Gods Bandit. I'm going to save it once more. It took quite a few fights because it has some very rare drops, but I'm looking to find the from the Bandit, in addition to the gold that it drops, which is a hefty amount. I'm looking to get a Daimyo Katana. That is for its own guild task. You don't necessarily have to farm it from a bandit. In fact, you can hire a soldier, or you can hire the unique leader Glennis. They both are options for getting that in your inventory. But I've got a couple of katana users in my party, and so I'm just going to get them an upgraded weapon. As you can see here, as long as leapfrogs have spawned, you can continue on, and the bandit is right here near the entrance. And so if it has spawned and you're hunting those katanas, it's a very rare drop. So I would recommend save scumming it. But you can very easily take down bandits, farm them for gold, especially if you are bored of harvesting stones. So here's another option to make some money.
Let's do this!
Brilliant, yeah!
I don't really want to fight, but...
Kick in their faces from the side!
Come on!
Nice! This one looks loaded!
That gotta hurt!
I feel stronger than I did before.
Alright, so there's the Daimyo Katana drop. I'm not going to let Vega take this. I'm actually going to come back here and farm a few of those. If I upgrade it to the ninja level, the following upgrade is to the Tadarachi, and so I want to make sure that it has been upgraded to that level before I let my characters begin requesting it, so that they finish upgrading through the end of the Tadarachi line. But for now, I have the Daimyo Katana, and so I'm going to leave this map and head right on over to Athlum, and I'm going to turn in that guild task. I'm also going to cash in the 6th Jana Magus guild task as well, and after that we're going to head over to Illusion to continue farming. For one, I need the Manticore, second Manticore head to make the Ram Skull, and I also have another component needed for the Ram Skull. I need the Kuchulain Core, which can be gotten by taking down the rare Sledgehammer. It is a Colossus type enemy in the Catacombs. You need to take down the Sledgehammer for its own guild task anyway, and so we can kill two birds with one stone by hunting that rare. While we're hunting for Sledgehammer, we're also going to hunt for Nephthys, which is our other option for the Manticore head, and you will see both of those completed in this video. So if you're in the Catacombs hunting rares, on the other side of this door is where you'll know if you've got a rare or not. If there's a Grand Beetle or if there's Gluttons, which are the frog type enemies. If they're in that room, then you don't have a rare, but in this case you see that they're empty, so we're going to continue on. I was actually first coming here to find Nephthys, and so it should spawn right here at this intersection, which is why I paused to kind of look around and make sure that I wasn't missing it. Given that it hadn't spawned, I moved on, and just up ahead and through this door you'll see that Sledgehammer has spawned, and so this is the rare that we're going to capture and split in hopes of getting that Cuchulainn core. You may want to save it before you take this on, because it's not a guaranteed split, and you do need one of those for the Ram Skull.
I don't really want to fight, but...
Keep it together!
Thank you.
Come on! We've caught him with the pants down! Piece of cake!
I feel stronger than I did before.
Alright, so this is round 2 of rare hunting, and once again you've reached the other side of the door. This is where where you would find out whether he had a rare spawn or not, based on whether or not there was a Grand Beetle or Gluttons showing. And so I continued on, expecting that Nephthys would be right here at the intersection. But when I first got down here, I didn't see it, and so I kind of looked around and thought, well, maybe there's something else going on that I missed. But then you hear the squeal of the bug, and sure enough, there it is. And so this is where I'm going to save it, make sure that I get that mana core head split, because otherwise if I don't get it from this, and I do need 2 of them, I have to wait until the second half of the game to complete that guild task.
Let's do this!
I don't really want to fight, but be careful.
We're counting on you!
Forgive us. We don't want to fight. Thank you.
Sweet! Yeah!
Son of a... I need the other one! The other one!
So with that, our rare hunting is done for this segment. We're finally going to move on and enter the city of Melphina. The first task I want to do once we arrive is to take care of Darien's quest. And so we started it by speaking with Darien in Illusion. We're sent here to obtain the chalice. The quest is actually simple. You just have to interact with various NPCs throughout town. If you follow the order in the video, it's about the most streamlined as it could be. Afterwards, you're given the chalice and you return to Darien in Illusion, completes the quest and makes him available for hire. The other thing worth noting is that in the middle of the quest, there's an item laying on the ground by one of the NPCs. It's another Remembrance item for Jorgen and the Amnesia quest. It's the Book of Remembrance, and so I'll stop for a moment and grab that, but I don't think I'm going to interrupt the video to comment on it. Although once the quest is complete, we've got a couple of purchases to make, and then we're going to finally do some crafting on a couple of weapons we've been gathering components for their guild tasks since the start of this playthrough, and so that'll be satisfying to finally turn those in, and then we'll end the video sort of hanging. I'm going to return off the clock to the Godwood grind, get a couple new characters up to speed, and when we come back, we'll take on the next segment of quests and guild tasks, and possibly progress the story. Alright, so Darien's quest is basically done. I had mentioned in an earlier clip that you need antique pots for the ram skull, and I said that if you didn't get them through harvesting, you could purchase them. And so at this point, and now in Melphina, you can see here at this shop, that's where you get antique pots. You do need 3 of them to craft the ram skull, and we already have that in our inventory. And so the only 2 components remaining are the base level weapons. You need 1 kukuri for the assassin's dagger, and you need 1 mace for the ram skull. We will head on over to the blacksmith and upgrade those weapons, and we will immediately return to the guilds and redeem those guild tasks. So I pause here on the list of available units just to point out Akokis. He's not necessarily a talented generic, as I tend to refer to other generics, but he's a little unique in that he dual wields, and so if you're looking for a little bit of variety in your party and you'd like the dual wield option, Akokis is a reward for having taken down the 6th Jana Magus. Certainly worth adding if you want something different, not just for the dual wielding, but he's one of only 2 characters that can use the weapon art Blade Break, and so if you're not used to seeing that, I would recommend adding him to your party. Alright, so here we are redeeming the Assassin's Dagger. guild task. And you may notice, although I kind of rifled through these fairly quickly, that we did not turn in the Elite Scepter guild task yet. That task actually becomes available upon entering and exiting the aqueducts, and so we do need to advance the story just a little bit further in order to make that guild task redeemable. But we're not going to upgrade Megalius any further. We don't have any risk of losing his currently equipped weapon. Just letting you know that while we have satisfied it, the guild task is not yet available for us. The last thing we're going to do here, we're going to find Darien. We're going to turn in or complete his quest, and then as I said, I'm going to go back to doing a little bit more Godwood grinding. I'm going to add a couple of more characters to the party. We did pick up Drago, and I intend to use him, and so I want to bring him up to speed by giving him a little bit more focused development.